I'm Ryan, this is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family, and we are in, what month is it?
I don't know. Idea, Ryan.
It is, I guess at the time of filming this, it is March. This will likely go out at the beginning of April.
So I could still get some plays in today.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have really, yeah. Yeah, well, we have to come clean now that when we do our top plays of the month, we do sometimes allow a game that was played in the prior month, but after we recorded the video to make it. It's really the best games played since the last time we recorded one of these videos.
If that upsets you, you can unsubscribe below.
Yes. You know, we're nothing if not transparent about our what we're doing over here.
But if you haven't subscribed...
Yeah, and if you appreciate that transparency, click that subscribe button. This is the monthly video where we talk about our top 3 board gaming plays in the last month. It gives good visibility into what's getting to the table for us and what's really landing and, you know, getting us excited about board games. We'll have links to all of them below because you can check them out for yourself. It's the great thing about the world we live in is... you can trade money for board games. They give you great experiences.
What a great world.
What a world. I feel like we're really firing on all cylinders this morning. Let's go ahead and get into this. You can also share in the comments, as we often ask, what your top play was of March of 2025. It's fun to see what everybody's playing, not just us.
That's true.
But let's see what Daniel's been playing. Let's see what hits it as number 3.
Yes, Ryan, I am very excited for this list. Got not one, but 2 new games that are going to be discussed today.
Me too, actually.
Oh, so this is okay. Now I'm actually excited.
Rolls in the Family, Cults of the New era, maybe.
Maybe. We're turning the page, Ryan. Turning the page. This was as a result of game nerds having their little nerds day, and Daniel gets tempted and got looped in a little bit.
I just like how you go into the day with I might if there's anything good, and I'm like.
I got so sucked in.
Let me place a side bet here.
I got so sucked in. But it was worth it, Ryan, as you'll see in this video. My number 3 game was one that I knew nothing about. And as usual, reach out to Ryan and say, should I buy this? And Ryan said yes. I think you said something like that. But one that...
I know I also said no to some.
You did say no to some, and I appreciate that. But this one is one that I looked into more, and I just really liked the simplicity of it, and yet something that just has some specific mechanics that are really, really interesting. This is going to go to the Veil of Eternity. So this was one that got to play with my wife a couple times, actually. And I can't remember how many players it can go up to. I have it on the metadata screen right now. So if you're looking at the metadata screen, let me know down in the comment below. I think it goes up to 4. Yeah. But this one it's a simple game of, kind of drafting cards. On your turn, you're kind of snake drafting. You've got your 2 pieces. And so these different, kind of cards of, I think, 4 or 5 different types come out. And you place your chip on which one do you want to potentially take, and then it's snake drafts around. And then when you're taking your chips back, you can choose to either take the creature into your hand. You could discard it to get the kind of currency chips above it. And so all of that's very simple. The really fun part about this game, and I think what makes the game, is the tension around managing the whole currency, where, the different types of currency in the game, I think are 1s, 3s, and 6s. But you can only have 4 physical chips in front of you. So you could have 4 1s, you could have 4 6s, but you are limited to that. And then on top of that, you don't get change when paying for playing a monster. That's the game right there. Like you talk about what makes the
really
game.
A brilliant
it
core
is
mechanism.
So good. It makes the efficiency of trying to figure out okay. How do I maximize these limitations that I've been given to play things the most efficiently? Do I play this card when, oh my gosh, to play it, I'm gonna have to pay double the cost, because I have it's a 3 card, but I've only got a 6 or something like that. So, it's something I'm starting to realize, Ryan. I love board games that have those kind of creative restrictions, that you have to play within. Where and I feel like there's a lot of games we have that kind of are we like, tight constraints. And I feel like this one does it, but in a really simple, kind of, quick format. This game also had a little bit of what I love about, like a fantasy realms of kind of comboing of cards. And so you can, and I'm sure this is a game as you play more and you really start to learn the cards, because you see a lot of the cards each game. You can really start to kind of see the different, strategies and stuff like that. And there's a lot of fun kind of comboing that happens. But man, this one was, I'm really pleased to get it, because it kind of slots in that, it's a lighter game, plays pretty quick, but again, just has some of that fun strategy and does I feel like games like this, when they've just got such a unique twist on it that you don't have in any other game, it really leaves you feeling like, oh man, this is a really fresh experience and a lot of fun. So played it a couple times and thoroughly impressed so far. A couple times.
It's cool how then that like unique mechanism feeds into what they can do with the cards, because like so many of these games live or die by the quality of the cards. And from what I've seen, Veil of Eternity did a good job of like simple, but really just like well-designed variety of cards and abilities. But you can think of things like, a card that gives you 3 1 chips versus a card that gives you 1 3 chip is very different in the power of those abilities, right?
Yeah.
Because 1 3 chip is so much better because you're only taking up one of your slots. And so it is interesting how, because I feel like a lot of these games that kind of fall, like if you would just look at a card from Veil of Eternity, you would be like, this reminds me of a lot of games that have these kinds of cards. Yeah. And so I feel like you need some things in the game that are going to drive the card abilities in some different directions to not just feel like another... like, oh yeah, they're kind of just working in the same design space as a lot of other games that do these kinds of cards with creatures and abilities or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot, there's a lot of cards that are about, exchange this a 1 for, turn a 1 into a 6 or something like that, So again, it's a ton of creativity around that simple design choice, which is really cool.
Yep. I have not played it, but very, very interested. It's been high on my list.
I'm sure you'll get to try this one when you come on and visit.
Cool. Well, glad I didn't fail you yet with recommendations.
Haven't failed me yet, Ryan.
My number 3 is another game in a series of this has been a theme on these top plays over the last probably year. Things is some of these crowdfunding campaigns that I backed way back that are finally delivering. I've kind of stopped backing them, but they keep showing up at my door. The ones
it's a fun surprise.
It's a fun surprise.
You forget how much you paid.
But this is one that I, it was like a reprint Kickstarter, which is actually true of most of the things I backed, as it was like, I already had decided I wanted this game, and then they came back to Kickstarter or whatever with it. But I knew that I was interested from a long time ago in Planet Unknown. And largely, I would say the biggest selling point is it's hard to find games that play well from like 2 to 6 players, get up to that 6, while still being like a little bit bigger strategic experience, feel like it has a little bit more meat to it. And so that was very attractive. In addition to that, it's got the simultaneous play. It's got this big lazy Susan thing that the active player turns it to whatever depot they want to take their piece from. So they could pick any piece out there. And then every other player has to pick from 2 pieces in the depot that's facing them, which is a great... Everybody's always involved. You're always getting an interesting decision of which of these 2 kind of polyomino pieces do I want. And then the whole game, like you're trying to fill your planet with these tiles, and every tile has 2 types of terrain on it, where the terrain is going to allow you to move up on these different tracks. So like if it had the tech terrain that has like the tech icon, you get to move up on your tech track. If you have the water one, those ones actually you have to play it on an ice space on your planet to take advantage of the water, but you get to move up in your water track. So it's like the game is all about like going up on these tracks by how you're placing these pieces out there. And then the tracks are doing different things. You've got like the Civ track that every time you hit one of the levels in there, you get to, like you hit level 1, you get to look through this deck of 1 cards that was randomly picked at the beginning of the game, and you get to take a card out of there, which could either be like end game scoring, or it could be like an immediate benefit, or it even could be like an ability. And so if you're the first one to get there, you get kind of first pick out of that batch, and then you put the remaining ones back. The water track is all just about getting lots of points. You've got the tree track, I forget what they call it, biomass. And that one, you hit these places where you get little 1 square tree pieces, which are really good for filling in, empty spaces on your board. Because one of the main ways you score at the end of the game is every row or column that has no gaps is going to score like the value for that row and column. Okay. So you want to be pretty efficient with how you like get everything in there. But then you have the rover track that when you get the first time you go up on that, you're actually going to get a little like moon rover out onto the planet. And then whenever you take that, move up on the track after that, it gives your rovers movement. And so while you're doing this polyomino puzzle, you got these little, you get up to 2 of them. Cool. These little rovers that are moving around on the planet, and they're going and trying to pick up like these life pods that started on the planet, because you can score points for those. And if you build over them, they would just get destroyed. So you kind of want your rovers to go get them before you do that. But there's also a lot of the pieces that have this like meteor icon. And when you play those on your planet, you have to put a meteorite on it. And meteorites are bad because you now can't score that row and column if there's a meteorite in it. Like even if it was completely full. But your rovers can go and pick up the meteorites, and you actually score for like every 3 meteorites that you collected. So it is interesting. It is something I think separates it a little bit from other kind of polyomino games, is you've kind of got this like thing on top of the puzzle that you're moving around and trying to do things, and the rovers can move on top of your pieces, but also can venture off where you haven't played yet. And so going up on that track is going to allow you to do more with your rovers. And then the last track is the like tech track that as you hit different levels, you start getting new abilities, and they stack. Like you keep the ones that you had before. So like the first one you hit on kind of the vanilla board is, you no longer have to play next to the pieces you've already played. You could play anywhere on your planet. And then you get to one that's like, when you get those biomass trees, you don't have to play it right away. You can save it to the end of the game so that you can like optimize exactly where you want to be filling those in.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. And so it's got a lot of cool things going on. And the reason it really made my list here is I was finally able to do like a true big game of it. We had 5 players. I'd played it 2-player, but we had 5 players, good group for it. And we use the asymmetrical planets. So technically the planets have an asymmetrical side and those track boards have an asymmetrical side where everybody's tracks have different bonuses. You have different tech abilities and they kind of do some wild things. We just used the vanilla of the tracks because everybody was new to the game besides me. We also had 1 player in the game that was definitely in the category of like, has never even seen a board game like this before. Like, is making comments like, who comes up with this game? Right, like, because they're just coming from a different place of what games they've been exposed to. And I was like, that's okay, cool. Got to kind of, make sure we're playing to the group here and not setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
But getting that kind of full experience and getting to see the dynamic of like, the Lazy Susan when there's a lot of people. And it was just a great time. And even with 4 new players, and I would say we were playing a little slow. People are getting up and getting food. And it was pretty casual.
Yeah.
We finished right at 90 minutes, an hour and a half. And I'd kind of advertised it as 60 to 90. And I really think like if you're playing a little bit more focused, even with a big group, you're probably falling closer to 60, which is beautiful, right? Like that's like a really good thing for this game in the collection. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun. My asymmetrical planet was actually 3 planets that were kind of like connected. And it kind of had this ability that I also score 2 points for any of those 3 planets that I fully fill, which was interesting. You also have this dynamic of there's these objectives that are placed between the players. So you have an objective that you're competing with the player on your left and a different one that you're competing with the player at your right. And at the end of the game, it's like whoever did better in that thing is going to get the points. And so like on the left, I had this thing that I wanted, I think it was Civ icons on the perimeter of my planet, which was interesting because the perimeter of my planet is like 3 planets, which actually kind of helped me because I think I had more perimeter. But then my other one was like I wanted a really big water group, like the biggest continuous thing of water or whatever. So that's another interesting thing kind of like added in that you're kind of doing with the player next to you. So really good first impressions on this one. And it went really well with the group. Like everybody else seemed to really enjoy it. I think this is one that you and your wife are probably going to like.
I was going to say, Ryan,
it checks some big boxes when it comes to like tight polyomino puzzle because you are really trying to fit everything in. Simultaneous play,
even just good presence on the table,
good table presence, and it's got some other things going on. It's fun to go up tracks, like and the tracks, a lot of them have these like it looks almost like the spinning beach ball on Mac, but I forget what they call it. Synergy. I know, which is like a terrible thing to compare it to. Synergy bonuses or something that whenever you get to one of those on a track, you immediately can go up on any track, even the one that you just went on. So you get that kind of like bonus thing. And sometimes, that made me go up on another track that gave me a bonus. And you go up on there. So really good. Really fun first play of this. I think I only remember to take one photo from the play
Ryan,
itself.
Come on.
So you'll probably see my 3 planets and then probably some photos from some other games.
Gonna do the same photo but zoom in on 3 different
parts. Look at this. But yeah, I'm pretty. It's not like a blow my socks off. Like when it comes to my top games of all time list, I don't see this like shooting way up to the top. But man, does it fit a situation well, and really I really have enjoyed my plays of it so far.
Well, that's a good description actually of my number 2 of March. This is another game that this is a great example of going into Nerds Day and not having any plan of owning this game, and then you walk away owning this game. I mean, I guess that was true of the Veil of Eternity too. I never even heard of it. I had heard of this one. I'd heard of this one, but didn't think I was going to own it. Then you get tempted by a good deal, and then the more you think about it, you're like, actually, this might make a lot of sense.
I actually thought this was this. If it's what I'm thinking of,
and ended up getting it, and I feel really great about owning it. Think it just hits a great spot in the collection. This goes to Foundations of Metropolis. So, a little backstory here. Ryan owns the big Foundations of Rome, the beautiful Foundations of Rome, and it is indeed beautiful.
And large.
And large, yes. And so played that, and that game is really sweet. Not just the presentation, but that it takes that presentation and does it in such a offers it in such a game, kind of an entry level game, kind of for
and
people.
And a really good entry level game, and I think that's what you're going to see evidence with Foundations of Metropolis.
Well, and that's where I'm gonna like. They took that game and decided to obviously make a cheaper version that is more accessible. And a couple things stood out to me. First of all, despite it being the cheaper version, they did a really good job.
Yeah, if you didn't have Foundations of Rome as a comparison point.
Like, quality-wise, I was impressed. You still get the recessed, individual trays and everything stored in there with a plastic. So, like, taking it out, like, the setup is, just as fast. And, I think that they did an awesome job with that. Even the cardboard is nice and thick and just, obviously you don't have the 3D, elements and all of that, but like visually, I just found everything I thought looked great. And so that was one of the things you're worried about, especially having played Foundations of Rome, is it's like, am I going to pull this out and be like, oh my gosh, this is just so ugly, and didn't feel that way at all. And so I was really, really happy with that. But man, played a 4-player game of it, and with people who, some have played, a lot of games, some haven't, but was just needing kind of like a good, just entry level game. And this game nails it. Like, it just nails that spot of a gateway game, because rules wise, not that complex, right? You're drafting these cards that correspond to various places on the board to place your little on a token or whatever thing out there. And then you're deciding, what buildings do you want to build out there. But I know you've mentioned this before about Foundations of Rome. There's some deceptive amount of strategy in this game, especially when thinking about like overbuilding. And
overbuilding is like the number one thing I think that takes this game from like a nice design to just like opening it up to some really clever creative plays.
Again, there were multiple times where it was like, oh wow, if I overbuild there, that opens this up, and then I can, come in and do this. And so I found that again, I love a game that is very simple ramp, the ramp to get into it is very simple for people, but also for maybe people who enjoy more, gamery games that are a little deeper, offers you just little nuggets of that, of like, ooh, that's a really, really interesting play. So we had a great 4-player game of this. I will say I hope they bring this in an expansion. I really missed.
I think they are planning.
Yeah,
to bring
I don't know what those are
content.
called.
The monuments and foundations of Rome.
I really missed the monuments. Because you could see like playing this game, like those just add some really nice excitement and variability around the game that I could see playing this. If you play it again and again, you would really be missing those. So yeah, I'm hoping that it would be such an easy thing to expand on.
I also hope because I think, does it go to 4 players?
I
out of the
believe
box?
so. Yeah,
because like I'm able to go to 5 players. I wonder if they'll also bring the 5th player.
So how does that work with
capability.
the board and whatnot?
So the board has 2 sides. I think one is for 2 to 3 players, one is 4 to 5 players. And like it basically is just adding another row and column to the board. So I guess they would need to like
do a new
add
board.
a board probably.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe they won't. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but it is nice to be able to go to 5.
Right. Yeah, I'm fairly certain we were playing at the max play count, I guess. So yeah, again, it was one of those things that, especially at the deal that it was for, and then realizing like, oh man, this just, again, the season of life we're in, like games that are just awesome, kind of gateway games, and whatnot, are so good to have. I mean, this really, to me, falls in that, kind of falls into like Ticket to Ride, Well,
and I was going to say, I think something that it does really, really well, that I was going to say Ticket to Ride also does really well, is being a very accessible kind of, intro game that also appeals to kind of more gamers, but that is highly interactive without being mean. Like, I think we see a lot of examples. Too mean. Yeah. I mean, there's like, but like, there's a lot of examples. There are so many games now that I would say are good, welcoming gateway games, but are very kind of more multiplayer solitaire. You're working on your own puzzle, and those are great.
Yeah.
But it is really nice to have some that kind of get the players interacting in meaningful ways, but you also don't really want those games to be aggressively mean, like in that isn't usually. And I think both Ticket to Ride and Foundations of Rome Metropolis really, I mean, you have meaningful interaction in this game and how you're playing off people.
Right.
But there's not a lot of things in the game. Nobody's coming to attack you specifically or anything. And just the feeling of working on a shared board and seeing it build up.
Yeah.
Is just really nice to have that as an option in addition to, some of these more Cascadia, some of these things that are more multiplayer solitaire.
Right. Last thing I'll say about this is just, again, going back to the depth of the strategy that there is. I can remember a moment where I overbuilt and I put a bigger building out, but it freed up a single spot, which then you can drop one of your scoring. And I ended up being able to put a scoring thing that I didn't even, in the moment, didn't even like realize beforehand that, oh my gosh, I could put, there's some really,
I think the
creative
last time
stuff
I
there.
played, there was like a spot that opened up that would be amazing for one of the scoring ones. And all of us had already played that scoring one somewhere else. But then I went through the work of overbuilding my other one to get it back so that I could then pull it and put it in this better place. And yeah, it felt satisfying to pull it off.
Very nice. So I was tempted and it paid off. So
yeah, look at that. Game Nerds Day coming through in March 2025.
Love it.
So a game I have been playing fairly frequently recently. Largely driven by the fact that I got an influx of new content in the mail for it, is Final Girl. And many on the channel may know that I am working on playing through Series 3 of Final Girl.
Yeah.
Hoping to do a ranking video like I did for the Season 1 and Season 2 content. But I gotta play it a decent amount to feel like I'm in a place to do that.
That's right.
And Final Girl, it brings a lot of what we love from some of these like cooperative games where anything could happen. I think of something like Eldritch Horror, where just the sandbox space of possibility is so big.
Yep.
Final Girl feels that way. You plug and play a villain in a location, but then within that, it's so varied with what events come up and what, I mean, the horror cards it's just like really wide open. And it's so fun to have games that just like are so unique. And sometimes it's the same risk with Eldritch Horror. They can fall flat because you just get pounded or just it's like, wow, I just got absolutely annihilated. The nice thing with Final Girl is usually if you get annihilated, it was like 15 minutes or something. And so it's like, okay.
3 hours of
it was kind of funny
eating
how bad that was.
Yeah.
But I had a really, really good game with some of the Series 3 content. So I was playing, the killer was the Hunter, which is basically the Terminator. Like almost every killer in this game is like a very clear play off of some trope. So it's basically Terminator. And, the Terminator is hunting me down. It's actually one of the more complex killers in this set because it's got this whole thing that the first Mark V killer comes out and he's trying to like hunt down and kill me. But he is only the first one. Later, the Mark 10, the more advanced one, is going to come and, is going to be way stronger. And it's basically the plot to Terminator 2, if you've ever seen Terminator 2, which is a great movie. But the whole thing is like you can defeat the first kind of Terminator that comes out, but then you can repair him to actually then bring him out as an ally that helps you against the second one, which is like kind of needed unless you get some really good stuff because it's so good when it comes out. So, okay, so that was the killer. And then I'm playing in Falconwood, which is basically the location that plays off of Stranger Things. Like it's very much like they are playing into that theme. And so in the Falconwood one, every time you play in that location, you get a random mission. There's like 5 different missions that could be at that location. And it's now this mission that you need to do in addition to the main thing of killing the killer. And I happen to, in this game, draw I think it was like literally called the Hunted mission. And so I'm already playing against the villain that's like thematically hunting me down to kill me. And then I get the one that literally is going to add like these 4 agents come out onto the board that try to hunt me down and kill me. And I will tell you, there was a point in like turn 3 of this that I was like, I am going to get annihilated. Like there is no way. Because in Final Girl, the only way to really protect yourselves is with these like guard retaliate cards. And there's only a couple of them. And the way the cards cycle before you can buy them again, I'm like, they're all going to catch up to me. And I'm just going to get destroyed. And so I was like, there's no hope. But that's the thing I love about this game is you play it out because you just don't know what could happen. And in this game, the saving grace for me is I can't remember if it was I think it was an event at the location that a pizza delivery man came out onto the board. And the ability of this pizza truck was if I'm on the space with it, I can choose to move with it and get 2 extra movement for every move, which suddenly now I could run away. Like I could outpace these people that are hunting me.
Yeah.
The only caveat is the first movement has to be random. You have to use like the panic mechanism. But I'm like, I don't care. Pick the random direction. I'll keep running that way. And so the rest of the game became this thing of me like just running away with this pizza delivery guy, running for our lives from all these things that are hunting me, but then like strategically, trying to take out one of the guys and then run away. and it was like working, and it was taking a lot of time, which was unfortunate because like I know this like stronger Terminator is going to come out. But got to the point where I finished the mission, so now I just have the Terminator, and finally I think the Mark X came out, and when it comes out it automatically like kills the first one, or like finishes it off. But then I was able to like repair him a little so that I at least had him as an ally, and so he's able to do some hits while I continue to run for my life. I was just like, because the Mark X, if he like caught up to me and hit me, I was dead. Like I like couldn't survive it. And so I'm like running away and letting the Mark V do some damage. Finally, I needed the Mark V to take a hit for me. Like, and so he was gone. But there were some other key things that happened that when I was running, I ended up at the mall and searched there, and I found a shotgun, which allowed me to like hit him from a distance and bring down his health a little bit. And it ultimately came down to I had 1 health left. Mark X had 1 health left. And the thing in Final Girl, when you have 1 health left, you get +1 die to all your rolls. When the killer has 1 health left, you get +1 die to all your rolls. It's like this adrenaline of the final moment. And so I am getting just as many dice as I possibly could get, and I took the retaliate card, which is like the one that you guard against an attack, but you can also hit back. And I basically finally let him come to me, and I defeated him on this last retaliate. And it just, it was one of those moments where you get to the end and you're like, there was a point where I had my odds at under 1% in this game. Like, the pizza delivery guy suddenly opened that up a lot, but even then it was like really not looking great. But it was like I kept finding a way, and there kept being a key, like the shotgun. If I hadn't found the shotgun, I don't think I would have won. And so it was kind of poster child what I love about Final Girl, like the type of game you can have. I will say these, things like this Terminator set, it's a lot of rules, and it like. The first time I played it, it was pretty slow trying to figure out how it works. And so it is definitely one of those things that like I talk about how getting more sets for Final Girl is so cool because you can mix and match. But it also is this caveat of like, well, how often are you playing them? Because if you have huge gaps between playing some of these more complicated ones, you're just going to be learning from scratch again and have kind of a learning game instead of just a fun game. But some of the more complex ones also have some of the most fun potential and interactions, as this was an example of. So, there you go. There's my cinematic.
I tell you what, if I played solo board games, which I don't, oh my gosh, I would love Final Girl.
I think this would be the one you would like.
I know, because it just that sounds like everything I love in a board game.
And we did once. I showed it to you and played like a 2-play, like basically I kind of helped you play a game, and it was a fine game, but we didn't get one of the like craziest games I'd ever. And so it is a game that you could play 2-player co-op where you're just kind of collaborating on what to do. And I think there are some people that do that, but yeah, it is primarily a solo experience. And I found that if I'm going to play solo, this type of experience with some drama, just sometimes that's more what I'm looking for than like a puzzle. Like there's games that do a really good just puzzle, work my brain, and that's fun. But man, like I've played Final Girl probably close to 70 times, and I have this quite a few really memorable games from it, and this is one of them.
Dang. Looking forward to that future video. Looking at
I'm getting there. I got to do some more plays. I am planning on recording a playthrough at some point. So you might get to see me play Final Girl.
I would. I'd
tell me all the rules I'm doing wrong.
I'll subscribe to our channel for that. Yeah. Very nice, Ryan. Well, we're gonna move to my number 1, and this is probably the in terms of components, the simplest game in my entire collection. I don't know how. It's kind of an interesting clue. In terms of, it is a deck of cards, and yet the possibilities and just the game. Ryan, I love it. I love this game so much, and this play of it was just so much fun. This is gonna go to Tichu.
Oh, it's good to see Tichu making the
Ryan.
list.
We had my wife's my wife's family in town, and longtime viewers of the channel might know that my wife's father loves Tichu. That is his game. And so anytime he's in town,
because he plays it digitally.
He plays it
like, on his
digitally
phone,
all the
yeah.
time. And so anytime he's in town, we're playing Tichu if we can.
But you need another person.
But you need another person. So we had that, and so played a game of Tichu. It was my wife and I against her dad and her sister, and it was just an amazing game. I mean, so my wife and I got out to a pretty big lead. Like we were, like to the point of like, oh man, we're gonna be wrapping this thing up quick. We're dominating. I think we got multiple double victories and whatnot. But like Tichu can do with the scoring, like it's what do you call that? Is that zero sum or net or what is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hands, especially if you get double victory, where the other team doesn't get any points.
Yeah,
and,
right. Yeah, I guess you can always it's not like Crokinole or anything like that.
Yeah, where like you cancel out each other.
But man, they just stormed back, and Tichu just has, if you play a full game of Tichu, you feel the momentum, you feel the shift, and it got all the way back to where we're going into a hand, and I want to say it was like 950 to 950.
I will say, in all of board games, some of the most internal pressure tension I've ever felt is a Tichu game that makes it to the end where either team is in striking distance.
Like, you're just like, the tension at the table of, and are you going to be the one that calls Tichu in a moment like that?
Win the game
you could
with a
win the game, or you could be the reason we lose. And so we go into that final hand, and it is, you talk about just in general, Tichu's tense about knowing when do you play, when do you not. In a hand like that, oh my gosh, every decision is critical. And we go into it, and my wife and I came through just barely with the victory there. And man, like card games typically lean towards kind of the lighter side of experiences, kind of a very like laid back, casual. And I think what we love about Tichu is it gives you just this deep strategic experience in partner versus two other people, so many mind games that are happening in Tichu around trying to read, like, okay, what's my partner doing here, they call Tichu, okay, now suddenly, like, should I throw, oh my gosh, the amount of times you're like, should I fall on my sword with my hand to try to beat the person that's going for Tichu?
I'm trying to predict, like, what are the tricks that your opponent is, like, counting on?
I know.
Because you'll see a moment where you're like, they went into this hand thinking this will win them a lead. And you're like, how much does it hurt them if I beat it here and, maybe hurt myself, but maybe it hurts them even more.
I know. It's, it was so much fun. It was just reminding me again that this is a game that's truly never going to leave my collection, because it's not the easiest one to get to the table. You need four people who like that style of game, and in the best case scenario, 4 people that you can play it again and again with to learn the depth of Tichu. But if you have that, Ryan, this game just delivers time. It's like a game that ages so well, the more you play it, it only gets better as you play it more and more. And so I got to just experience a arguably perfect game of Tichu. It was so much fun. So there you go.
Yeah, I wish I could play it more often. One of my key Tichu people moved out of state.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly, I need to. Our sister's boyfriend is the person who needs to learn Tichu, because that would really because our sister really loves Tichu too. So yeah, if you're watching. Just know what I'm going to demand next time.
That's right.
I want to keep dating my sister.
That's right. We've got some strict rules around here in the language household.
Nice. My number one is a game in fact, I was going to say I've been itching to play it. I think when we did our top games we're most looking forward to play, like our top wish list games or whatever, I think this was my number one.
Oh, wow.
And it's another one that I had done the crowdfunded thing for and was waiting for it to come, and finally got my copy of Innovation Ultimate. And this is a funny one because Innovation has been on my radar, on my list of potential games to get since it came out, I think in 2010, but just never quite made it, to where I pulled the trigger. And it always had this hesitation of like, I heard it's so chaotic, right? And I think that presentation of it really did a disservice to this game, because I heard chaotic and I was lumping it in almost the same category of like, you think some of these really casual take that chaos games, I think of games like Exploding Kittens, or like these really kind of casual, more mainstream ones where it's like really the fun of the game is laughing at. And I tend to not enjoy those games. Like those
Ryan
just
has never
really
laughed in his life.
Laughing, not for me. No, just that type of take that, or like, oh yeah, that hurt me and I didn't know you had that in your hand. So like, there's nothing I really could have done about it. And so, man, there is an alternate timeline, Daniel, where we buy this game in 2010, and I could see it have becoming another game not that different from Race for the Galaxy for us.
Wow.
Where we played it to death 2-player. Because it really, I think, is best at 2-player. And it's so weird to think of like, that's kind of, would we be here on Rolls in the Family talking about our 200 plays of Innovation, over the years? But we're not. Instead, we're talking about my first and second play.
Hey, there's still time, Ryan.
The new edition, yes. What a fascinating and still fresh feeling design 15 years after it originally came out. This is a card game where the cards are in different eras. So there's one through. I realize Daniel doesn't know much about Innovation, so I'm going to really try to paint a picture here for you.
Never heard of it.
So there's eras from 1 to 10. I think the 10th, or no, the 11 is a new edition. There's an 11 now that's a new edition in this edition. They added that as another expansion. But there's these 10 decks that all have like, I think it's like 10 or 12 cards or something each. And they represent like the different eras of innovation over the centuries. So like one is going to be like prehistoric technologies, and then it like keeps stepping up. Cool. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to get 2 ones and pick one of them to meld in front of you, which just means it's now in your tableau. And so you might get like sailing, because that's something they knew how to do back then. And every card in the game is unique, and every card has icons on it. It has 4 icons. One is just like the picture for that, so it's a non-functional thing. But then 3 of them are like there's these different suits of like the types of innovations, and they count like icons towards that category. And the reason that's important is because every card also has an ability that they call a dogma ability. And when you choose to do one of those abilities, because on your turn, it's always take 2 actions, and it could be draw a card, which means you draw a card from the deck of the highest number you have in front of you. So if you can like get into age 3, you can start drawing age 3 cards. And the game is all about trying to work your way up those eras. But another option is play a card, which the cards come in 5 different colors. And if you play the same color, it covers the previous card you played. So you're only really ever having 5 active cards. And so your tableau and your combos are constantly changing, because you might, lose something you used to have. But then your other action is to activate one of these dogma abilities, to actually use one of these innovations. And this is very interesting, because usually it's going to do some ability, but it has a suit. So it might have like the leaf suit, which is like, the nature farming type, related. And so I get to do this ability, but if my opponent has as many leaf icons as I do or more, they also do the ability. And then there's also abilities that are these demand abilities, which are kind of the more aggressive ones. And so those ones, I mean, they could really do terrible things to their player, of like getting rid of cards or stealing cards from their score pile or things like that. Oh my
gosh.
But they're only vulnerable if you have more of that icon than they do. And so it's very common in this game for someone to get a card out and, potentially use it against you. And you're like, oh my gosh, that is awful. I need to get some more castle icons so that I'm no longer vulnerable to this thing. And, when you're in one of those positions where you've gotten a good card that you're ahead in, you maybe spend turns just like spamming it, taking advantage of it while you can until the other person kind of can figure out how to work around it. It is such a dynamic game with how the tableaus change and what your priorities are and what you need to be trying to do. Then on top of that, there's this very interesting mechanism that you have your 5 piles, right, that are the different colors, or up to 5 once you've played all 5 colors. And you always stack and cover up. But then there's cards that'll say, splay your purple cards right. And splay means you get to push the pile so that you can see, so if you splayed right, you would see the left side of each of the cards below. Mm-hmm. And now all those icons that are now visible count towards your active icons. And when you add to that pile in the future, you continue splaying. So having a color splayed suddenly gives you so much more ability to have more icons going on. And so just a lot of fascinating things going on here. You either win the game by claiming 6 of these objectives, which are achievements. They're standard achievements, which basically, to claim one of them, there's one from each deck. So it's 1 through 9. And to claim the number 1, you would have to have at least 5 points. So it's 5 times the level. You would need 10 points to get the second one. And so you have to have the points, and then you need to do an action to claim it. And I think this is an absolutely brilliant design decision because it makes getting early points matter. If, in a lot of games, choosing to take points early at the expense of your engine is almost always bad because you're well, if I get the engine going, I can get the points on the back end.
Right.
Well, here, if I do a quick rush to 5 points, I can maybe snag that one achievement early. And that's one of my 6 achievements I need to win the game. And if I can keep, now it's only to 10 to get the other one.
That's interesting.
So it is this fascinating, and there's only one of each of those. So if I take the one that's 5, you no longer have the opportunity you would need to get to 10 points to get the, so I think that is absolutely brilliant because it makes it you can lean into points early to try to secure these things. There's also a few of these, I forget what they call them, global achievements or something. There's 5 of them that have specific conditions that once you have, I'm going to forget what all of them are right now, but if you meet that condition, you could claim that specific achievement. And they're pretty hard, but you kind of know from the beginning of the game what those are. Okay, I lost Daniel there for a second, and I wanted to make sure that he heard this.
Yes, right.
So I had to make sure to bring him back.
Thank you.
I think I was talking about how the other way the game can end is if someone would draw higher than the max. So if you try to draw 12, I guess, in the new edition.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different reasons that could happen. And if that happens, the game ends and whoever currently has the most points wins. Achievements are useless in that case. So there's this thing in the game that if you can get 6 achievements, you win instantly. But if it goes to end game scoring, those achievements don't do you squat. You better have some points on hand to win the game. In addition, there's some cards in the late eras, because I mentioned every card's unique, that have instant win conditions that give you another way to pull off something really wild and, win the game through that. And so this is a game we talked about how Final Girl better keep playing because you never know. Innovation is definitely that feeling usually these engine building games fall into the trap of someone gets their engine ahead.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard for somebody to come back. Oh boy, in this game, can some wild things happen and can the tables flip to where someone who is in complete control, some crazy ability just changes everything.
Right.
And you have to just roll with the punches. And some people might not like that. That I set up this good combo and then they had this counter thing that just completely pulled the rug out from under me. But if you go in with the right expectations, it turns into just this fascinating tactical landscape of okay, this is now my situation. What can I do to do, something else and just that decision of what's the next best thing for me is so constantly interesting in this game. And the abilities, so varied what they could do. I mean, one example, I had this currency card that the dogma on that, I could discard any number of cards from my hand, and basically get 2 points for every card that had a different value. So I want to have like different cards that I discard. Well, something that's interesting in this game is whenever you would draw cards, say a card like writing, for example, which is in the first one, allows you to draw 2 because writing kind of helps you progress.
Right.
If there are no 2s left in the pile, you draw from the next pile available. And as the game goes on, like we got to a point where almost all the piles are depleted up to 7. So suddenly if you still have writing sitting around, you could use writing to just draw 7, like because it's going to draw from the next pile. And that also applies to scoring. So something like currency that's saying I get to score a 2 card for every card I discard. I kept currency around for a long time to where there weren't any more 2s or 3s. So now I'm getting 4s and 5s for every pointers for every card that I got rid of just because of the nature of that. And so I love how you're like advancing in these technologies, but you could keep an old innovation around. You could have something from the prehistoric times sitting around here. And in the late eras, suddenly it may be powerful in a completely new way because of, the setup now. So I am absolutely fascinated by this game. We played a full first game 2-player that took, we were playing slow. We were new to it. It probably took us almost an hour and a half. Immediately played it again. So we basically played 2 games over like 3 hours. If you would have asked me, if it had not been, 11 o'clock at night, I would have hands down set it up and played it again. Like I just was like itching to play it again because it's just... It captured my brain, the possibilities of these things.
Wow.
And it so is a game that the more you learn the cards is going to actually make it more fun.
Right.
But it's always going to be different. And I know I've heard people that have played this hundreds and hundreds of times with just the base game and still love it. I saw on Board Game Arena, they're trying to bring the new edition, to Board Game Arena, and they have like a group that's testing it. The criteria to get into the group to test it is you have to have logged at least 750 plays on BGA.
Get playing, Ron.
And so I was like, clearly there's a lot of people that play this game a ton. But man, this one, I'm telling you, I'm very excited to introduce you to it.
Yeah.
When we have the opportunity. But I'm a little smitten here on
All
first.
Ryan, you are.
As far as, we love variability, right? Like in kind of just like the what could happen.
Yeah.
And this game just has it in spades, and it's chaotic, but like it's so interesting operating within that chaos. And like there are very strategic decisions, and there is a lot of room to be good at this game. So yeah, innovation. It makes, like I said, it makes me wonder, had we bought this game so many years
Although,
back.
Ryan, come on, you got to think about middle school Daniel and
that's
the
the
rage that lived
caveat.
within him in aggressive games. How would I have handled a...
Yeah, probably not great, but I feel like we would have gotten over the hump because I feel like once you kind of understand how even when something bad happens to you, it's okay. Like you still have opportunities.
I would have rebounded.
You're not out of it. But who knows? Middle school Daniel wasn't the most predictable.
That's right.
But yes, I would say that the first impression of innovation couldn't be any more positive than it was, and I'm itching, in fact, to get us to the table again.
Well, if you are as itchy as Ryan is right now, we've got links to all of these games down below that you can check out. And hey, we've got a couple more videos here too. You can check out those, but we will see you in the next one.